Hello everyone, welcome to Othello Flips on how to start winning in Othello Milestone 3. If you have been enjoying my videos so far, do click on the like button below. For more info, you can look for my website, othelloflips.com, or follow me on my Facebook page, Othello Flips. Without further ado, let's move on. Okay, this is today's content. First, we will do a quick review of the concepts from the previous videos, followed by a quick touch on quiet moves or what quiet moves is about. After that will be a main dish for this video, the fight for the center of dishes, where I will show how to win in a leading sandwich scenario. And lastly, as usual, there will be a summary. Okay, quick review of the concepts. Corners are important. So the C squares and X squares are usually avoided at the early stage of the game to prevent giving away corners easily. To avoid playing those bad squares, a player must always ensure that he will always have options to play. So running out of safe moves is bad. Therefore, mobility, also known as having as many options as possible, is important. And to ensure that you have as many options as possible, you have to minimize the flipping of exterior dishes. Okay, quiet moves next. A quiet move is a play that barely increases your opponent's mobility. Quiet moves can be created, they can be blocked, and or they can be removed. So to create a quiet move, you flip a disc that gives you quiet move to a square. To block a quiet move, you play at a square where your opponent has a quiet move. And to remove a quiet move, you flip away the disc that gives your opponent quiet move to a square. Okay, let me show a few board examples on these 3 points. Okay, for this board position, it is white's turn to play. So if you observe the moves available for white, one of the few things that you may want to consider playing is a move over here. Okay, mainly because it does not give black too much options by playing a move there, basically minimizing flipping of exterior dishes. And another main reason is because white does not have any access to this particular square. Okay, so while A5 is option, what white can do is play a move at E1 here, flip this key disc, and create a quiet move access into the square B6. So it will look like this. If white plays this, let's say black plays this move, so white will now have a quiet move on B6. So basically this is creating quiet moves. And after that, white can still proceed to play A5. Okay, over here we'll be talking about blocking a quiet moves. It is black's turn to play. So notice black have a few options, decent options. They look like quiet move. This one, black can play this. Black can play any of this, in fact. Okay, but notice that if black plays any of those cross squares, white could just play a quiet move inside here. So what black could do is black could play this move instead. Okay, and block white's quiet move. So this is what we call blocking a quiet move, where black plays a square where white has quiet move too. Okay, and the advantage of this is after this move, white may have to play somewhere else, and black can still enjoy his quiet moves at c7 and d7, and maybe a5, depending on the situation. Okay, for this board example, is a situation on removing of quiet moves. So this is black's turn to play. So note that there are some viable quiet moves for black in this case, like this move here and this move here. Okay, but notice if black plays either of those two moves, white will have access to c2. That means white will have c2 as a quiet move. So what black could do in this case is black could try to remove white's access to c2 by playing over here. Okay, so this is an example of removing of quiet move. So notice now it's white's turn. He will probably have to break black's wall and create more moves for black. Okay, so I have shown 3 examples on creating, blocking, and removing quiet moves. Okay, do not blindly execute any of the 3 techniques mentioned. Consider the price immobility that you have to pay in order to pull them off. Okay, next, the fight for the center of discs. The interior of the disc group is important, as those discs gives options to play on the exterior of the group. The exterior of the disc group is undesirable, as they give opponents more options to play. So in a sandwich scenario, the bread loses out and the ingredients are actually leading in the game. So let us go to an example. Okay, it is black's turn to play here. So do take note, this is a sandwich scenario where this section over here is the bread of the sandwich. Okay, and this section over here, the black dishes, is the ingredients. So do take note, black is leading here. Okay, so since it's black's turn to play, to maintain the centralization of the dishes, black will have 2 options. One is to play this quiet move at b6. The other one is to play the quiet move at g4. Okay, so between the two, I will prefer b6, because if let's say g4 is being played, white could actually block the quiet move at b6, while black is most likely still leading. The gap between them will be a bit closer, I think. So in this case, black should play b6. So what I'm going to show is actually how to establish a win, trying to maintain the lead all the way until a win is secure. So after this, white will have 2 decent options. One is to actually cut at g4. Okay, trying to become the bread. Sorry, I mean the ingredients instead of the bread. The other way is to just play a a5 move here. Okay, so if let's say g4 is being played, what black will do next is to snatch this move, since white will also like to play this. then take note that white cannot flip these two pieces in one shot. Otherwise, black will just play a move inside here without flipping this line. So in order to maintain that, white can probably play d2, and so black was still want to carry out this idea of not flipping the third row. If let's say black plays this, white could actually continue like that. So what black should actually do is play here, because from here, whether white plays e2 or whether white plays g3, black's move at a3 will be a quiet move. So what white will try to do in this case is simply to play a6. So it is a more or less a forced situation, after which black can place a quiet move here. So if you realize black is still trying to maintain the interior on this side, and white is actually running out of moves already. The moment everything closes up, white is in danger. So now it's white's turn. So maybe white will do this. And so over here, black can try to establish a win by playing this h6, forcing white to play h7. If white doesn't play h7, what will happen is black can do this threat, and if white closes up the gap, black will take h1 immediately. So for white, the h7 move is necessary. Okay, after which black will play h4, threatening to take the h8 corner, forcing white to eat up all his options. Okay, and black goes e2. Okay, over here is definitely a loss for white already, because white will run out of safe moves. So if let's say white eats all his options, black can just carry out this attack. Yes, white does take this corner, but black will secure all the stable pieces, all the remaining stable pieces, in fact, in this manner. So he will eventually eat in this direction and win the game. Okay, let's go back a few steps. So let's say instead of g4, white choose to play a5. So black can take g4 instead. So if white doing this will cut off a lot of options for white, so it's something to be avoided. Playing f2 will give a simple g3, at which on the next step, white is probably going to close off all its options. So to maintain black's exterior pieces, white's best option here is probably to play h3. After which is black's turn. There's a d2 options, but I feel that it gives away maybe too many over here, too many options to white. So a better strategy would be to actually deny white's access to d2 by removing the g4, the g5 this, by playing this move. So you realize black controls this diagonal and maintains on the interior of the formation. After which, this is actually quite leading for black already. So if let's say white tries to enter h6 in this manner, black could just block the move. Okay, over here there are two options for white. It's either g3 or h7. So let's say if h7 is split, black could block the g3 move. After, let's say, white takes h2, black can still attack the unbalanced edge here. And the same thing will happen, exchange of corners, and black will win here. Okay, by sweeping across. So if it's not clear, I'll just play a few more moves. Okay, so this is very obviously leading for black. Okay, let me. And there's another scenario here. So we were talking about white playing this just now. So let's say white plays this move. Black could still do this. Okay. So fading h6 is useless because black won't flip the third row when he goes into h3. So let's say white plays this, the same thing will happen. Okay. So black is still winning here. And that is all because in the first place, white is actually running out of options in a sandwich scenario like this. Okay, let us go to another board position. Okay, for this board position, it is black's turn to play. What I'm going to show here is how to fight for interior distance, and the Othello is actually a dynamic game where you need to plan ahead, like in chess and Go or Chinese chess. Is a board game where you need to actually look ahead. So first thing offhand is moves like g6 and f7 should not be played. Why? The reason is very simple, because it gives white a quiet move on c6. Because you remove this poison, this that will cause the additional flipping along this line. Okay, so let's go back one move. So some of the considerable moves here are b6, b5, b3, and f2. Okay, for which I'll be highlighting b6 and f2 for this position. Okay, before that, moves like c2 should not be played. Okay, why? It may seem like a great idea to play c2 because you could actually try to double take quiet moves along here, cutting the center. But note that white can actually remove your f4 this in this manner, and at the same time, not only this is being flipped away, he also creates this and gain access into d2. Okay, so this is a game at which you have to look ahead. And a very bad consequence of this is white becomes the ingredient of the sandwich. And I wish the centralization may actually maintain for the next few moves. Okay, so let's get back to what I want to discuss. So f2. Okay, so over here, white will try to fight for the center. So basically to cut up black's distance. So moves like this, you have to think ahead because although you cut through the center, black could play this, okay, preventing your quiet move into d2. And what is worse, you do not have access into g3. Okay, and black basically maintain the center over here, while white is partially being split up. Okay, next, if let's say white tries this one, black could just maintain the center by playing this quiet move. So he's still being grouped up very nicely. So the best option for white here is to play g3, for which there's a counter for black. Black could play e1 to split white up. Okay, and this is when white actually needs to look ahead, because there are future moves at which white can play. Be it g4 or g5 is viable, but you need to look ahead to actually know what can be done. So after g5, if black plays c6, take this quiet move, white could actually split black's formation up by going g4, okay, or d2 will also work. The idea of d2 is, if let's say black plays g4, he's going to give white a quiet move on g6, after which white will become the ingredient instead of the bread. So this requires some planning ahead and looking ahead. At the same time, there's another option white could play here. White could cut at g4. So the biggest problem with this move, you can see offhand, is although white creates a move into d2 here, it could actually be cleared away by black by playing g5. And that is why white needs to look ahead, because from here white has the option to cut back the center by playing c7. So in this process, what's the advantage of this move? Flipping this key disc and gaining access to quiet moves over here while maintaining the center of the grouping. At the same time, another quiet move is created here. Okay, so that's about f2. So if let's say now, if black plays b6, so white has two ways to cut up black's discs. Do not attempt this. This seems to flip a little too much exterior discs in this area. So one thing is to maintain, white could maintain his grouping in this manner, or white could cut at e7, but a move like e7 will require some looking ahead. Okay, so what is there to see in a move like g4? So if let's say black plays g6, notice that there are places where white would love to have access to but could not, and there is moves over here. White would have loved to have moves on b5 and g5 but do not have access to. So what can white do is playing c7, flipping this key disc to create the access. Okay, so if black plays here, white could go on either side to continue the game. So you notice I pick c7 instead of e7 to flip the e5 disc. Okay, why? Because this here will cause additional flipping on this move when white goes in the future compared to the c7 disc. Okay, let us go back a few moves. Okay, a move like e7 will require some planning ahead or looking ahead. So if let's say black plays d7, white could play f7. So this will be advantageous for white because you notice black does not have access into b6. At the same time, white is controlling this line. So black does not have access to e8. Sorry, I mean c6 over here. At the same time, it gives move white access to here, followed by here, if black does not do anything about it. So you notice white becomes the ingredient in this case. Okay, let us wrap it up. Okay, summary for the day. A quiet move is a play that barely increases your opponent's mobility. Quiet moves can be created, can be blocked or removed. The interior distance and overall grouping of distance are important. Okay, sandwich scenarios are bad for the bread and good for the ingredients. Okay, so if you enjoy my video, do remember to give me a like, click on the like button below, and thank you for watching.